The sitcom, could be argued, is all about family, in which is not to say that its characters are necessarily related by blood, but rather by maybe the location of where they live, the school that they go to, the people they live with, or their actual groups of friends. This is from Louise Lavery, Literacy Through Laughter, How to Teach a Sitcoms-Based Unit, published in 2018. She's an Australian educator. We love to have role models growing up. I certainly want to be like my father when I was 5, and I still want to be like my father today. TV is another way that children, as they grow up, are able to see how people interact on a daily basis, are able to see how they should live as adults. Post-war sitcoms, like the 50s and 60s, focused on small biological family groups, which later moved to being able to pick or to choose who your family was. Later, even still in the decade that we're in right now, to accidental families. Let's start the conversation about 2 classic black and white shows that show how they used to live. I Love Lucy and Andy Griffith. TV defined family as a biological group that lived together or very close to each other. The sitcom, emerging at the tail end of the 1940s alongside the television itself, bore witness to and the acceptance of the horrors of World War II. Mirrored America, not necessarily as it was, but as it should be, peaceable, middle class, eternally unchanging. This is from Saul Austerlitz, sitcom history and 24 episodes from I Love Lucy to Community, the book published in 2014. I Love Lucy shows this the ideas, or tries to hide many of the arguments that came out of World War II. She does this by just being comedic. She's funny. She's still funny to laugh at. She was married to Ricky Ricardo, and they eventually have a son together, but it's a very close cast. It's a small group of people, showing that, you know, your friends and your family are the people around you, and maybe some older mentors, or or maybe a couple friends your age. But your family is your family. That's the most important thing to you. We later see that again in the Andy Griffith Show, where it's a very small town USA that tries to flee from the sins of the city or the sins of World War II. It's a story about Andy Griffith, Aunt Bee and Opie, and Party Fife, as they evaluate life lessons in a small town USA, trying to pull back to the time before war. Understanding how this decade and era of television understood family, we're able to see the pushback that later happened in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Sorry. In a time where biological meant family, it soon shifted to being able to choose who your family is. TV pushed on the idea that family had to be biological. We see that in That 70s Show, as well as in Friends. That 70s Show shows 6 high schoolers that live and do everything together. They are the family that drives the show. It's focused on them and the interactions they have with each other. Many of them don't have parents, or only have one parent, and they pour into each other and are able to grow in their interactions with each other, not necessarily from actual older people. We see that in Friends as well, that we don't really interact with a lot of their parents because they spend holidays with each other. They live in New York City flats with each other. They care about each other and able to pour into each other, not needing their families. They try to push on the idea that you can pick who your family is and who you want to be the chief influencers in your life. Leaving New York City to eventually come back to it 20 years later and see how it shifted again into something called the accidental family. The third phase of the television era is something called the accidental family. The people that impact your life are the people you spend the most time with. And if any of you have worked a 40-hour work week, you know what that means. It means that you're spending a third of your week, or the hours in your week, with these people that you don't obviously, or don't always get to choose. You don't always have to get along with your coworkers, but these shows show that coworkers are called to care for each other. Every office has its Pam and Jim, and while no one ever owns up to being the show's Michael, inevitably there is one of those two. The sitcom, therefore, can be an unlikely vehicle for the development of self-awareness and self-acceptance. Viewers observe and identify particular aspects of their own flawed nature in on-screen characters, a nature made pliable by the humor and the sheen in which it is delivered. This is from Jake Martin's Why Sitcoms Matter in 2011. The Office, Parks and Rec, Community show that coworkers are called to care for each other. They become a family. They are obligated to each other to care for each other. To conclude, TV shows shape how we define family and are still shaping how we define family. We need to care about this because we need to know what our shows are saying or what our shows are doing when it comes to family or what it's like to be an adult. When sitcoms started, they started as biological groups, then moving into something called the chosen family, and lastly, accidental family. Hollywood gets criticized all the time by Christians, saying that they're not promoting the right morals. We can't have our children watching this. And I think the decade that we're in right now, the TV era that we're in right now, does a great job of showing Christian morals. It's why we all chose these as our favorite shows. We care about the characters, and we see ourselves in those characters.